President William Ruto says the government has entered into a partnership with Kuwait to help build and improve schools in the country. Speaking in Nyamira County during his 3-day tour of the greater Gusii region, the head of state said the Gulf country has already contributed 1.4 billion shillings to improve 68 schools in the county alone, pledging to have a university set up in the area before January of 2025.
Governor, how are you, my friend? How are you, SG? How are you, my dear?
The president, who was accompanied by his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, kicked off his 3-day tour of Gusii region in Nyamira County, laying a foundation stone for the Kiabonyoru High School dormitory, where Ruto revealed the strides the government has made with its international partners to boost the education sector in the country.
Serikali ya Kenya na serikali ya Kuwait sasa tumekubaliana na tuko na pesa bilioni 1.4 1.4 billion shillings ya watu wa Nyamira kuwajengea mashule watoto wenu.
The head of state pledging the construction of 183 new classrooms, 44 laboratories and dormitories to enhance facilities in 68 schools across the county.
Wakiwemo katikati watoto wa Nyamira wanapata nafasi mzuri ya kusoma wakiwa na vifaa ya kutosha, ndio tukiajiri walimu zaidi. Vile tunaenda kuajiri baadaye mwakani, tutaajiri walimu wengine 20,000.
Ruto committing to have a new university set up at Kiabonyoru, North Mugirango before January.
Katika ile mpango sasa iko hapa mbele, ili tuweze kuanza kujenga hii university, mimi naenda kutafuta milioni 500 ya kwanza ya kuanzisha hiyo university hapa.
The president further rallied support for key projects under Better, noting that despite the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024, the administration will ensure the promises are kept.
Huyu Nyamoko hakufanya makosa kupiga yes. Alipiga yes kwa sababu program ambayo nimekujia hapa leo ndio iweze kusonga mbele, ndio tuweze kupata pesa ya kuendesha mradi wetu wa mambo ya stima.
Ruto said the appointment of a broad-based cabinet that included members of the opposition did not mean that there was a coalition agreement with the ODM party.
Waswahili wanasema umoja ni nini? Si umoja ni nguvu jameni? Na wasihi na waomba tuungane ndio tupate nguvu ya kuendesha Nyamira mbele, kuendesha Kisii na Nyamira mbele, na kuendesha taifa letu la Kenya mbele. Nimeleta salamu mingi kutoka watu ya Mount Kenya, mumekubali? Unajua nyinyi na sisi ni watu moja. Biashara ya matatu karibu mmefukuza, sisi tumekubali.
The president further called for unity and urged leaders to work with the citizenry, as it has been the main plea from Kenyans for the last 1 month.
So we are all united. Na ndio sababu mimi vile vile nimeunganisha Wakenya wote kwa kuunda serikali ambayo inalete Wakenya wote pamoja.
Yes, Kika on one of the dailies this morning just talking about the president's tour, and this is just but a sample of what the scribes in this particular daily have captured as stories making headlines in the last 12-18 hours, if you like. And it reads, President back on sunroof dishing goodies. We'll be giving you details as we proceed. Now, as the induction of cabinet secretaries is underway, the new National Treasury and Economic Planning Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi has pledged to implement various cost-cutting measures and payroll reforms. The initiative, according to CS Mbadi, will involve linking government payroll to an integrated financial management information system to eliminate ghost workers.
Good morning. I'm seeing smiling.
In his farewell address, outgoing Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Economic Planning, Professor Njikuna Ndumu, highlighted persistent negative shocks and inconsistent policies as part of several challenges that plagued Kenya's economy over the past 22 months.
We need to understand how the informal market works. And if we understand how informal market works, how can we raise taxes through the informal market without distorting the market? We want to come up with a tax policy that is predictable in terms of revenue, that is predictable in terms of the manufacturing sector, and the production sector. Second, Kenya must exit the grey list.
Mbadi says the journey ahead is undoubtedly challenging, as the ministry will have to adopt innovative solutions to sustain revenue streams amid scarce resources and absence of a current Finance Act in place.
Clearly, if we cannot integrate our payroll system from the state departments to IFMIS, which is our parent accounting system, and all the way to KRA, then we don't know what we are doing. So anyone who is standing on the way in that reform, please give way. We must prudently and efficiently use public resources.
Elsewhere, Environment Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale says there is need to focus on balancing economic growth with environmental preservation to ensure Kenya's continued leadership in sustainable practices.
We will continue to strengthen our climate action agenda, promote green growth, and ensure sustainable natural resources management. Our ministry will support effective coordination of climate action by all actors.
They both spoke when they officially took over in their respective ministries.
We're keeping tabs on that as the judiciary has unveiled an initiative to address the severe overcrowding in prisons while launching the Decongestion Initiative at the Nairobi Remand and Allocation Security Prison in Industrial Area. Chief Justice Martha Koome says this will help ease strains on resources in the prison system, which undermines the rehabilitation of offenders. Koome said the judiciary will adopt community service orders to replace incarceration for eligible convicts.
Some 376 out of 4,000 offenders at Industrial Area Prison in Nairobi are set to be released in the first phase of a decongestion initiative launched by Chief Justice Martha Koome. In the first phase, the initiative will focus on re-evaluating bail and bond terms for individuals who have not yet been convicted but are currently held in remand.
And we want to start with this cohort that we are releasing to showcase that actually even free boards can work, isn't it? We also want to release those who have qualified for CSO, community service order, to show to the public and to show to the communities that you can be engaged usefully.
The second phase of the initiative will involve an ongoing review of sentences by High Court judges to achieve a sustainable prison population, with Nairobi's prisons housing 9,458 inmates, with nearly half being unconvicted individuals.
And when I hear somebody has been here for 11 years waiting for trial, I tend to think that person has served the sentence. Therefore, we will take all those cases. I'm told 10% of them they have overstayed here, so we'll take them, and within this program, those cases will be dealt with also. Those stagnant cases of many years will also be dealt with.
With some prison facilities operating at double their intended capacity, worsening the overcrowding crisis, the initiative proposes enhancing plea bargaining to speed up trials, diverting children to rehabilitative programs, and offering community service for petty offenders instead of short prison sentences.
Decongestion exercise shall no doubt contribute significantly to humane treatment of offenders and respect for their inherent human rights and dignity.
Hapa utakuta pengine ni maswala ya wale walikuwa wanafanya biashara zao ndogo ndogo, ama pengine amekutwa amelewa, ama pengine amekutwa anauza chang'aa, basi yako hapa. Akitoka hapa Chief Justice sasa anakuja anakuwa sasa ule mbaya zaidi kuliko vile alifika hapa. Maana anafundishwa na wale wamefanya makosa makubwa makubwa.
I go to Langata Women's Prison so many times to release women who have been sentenced for hawking. Taken there, the fine is 5, 10, 20,000, and they don't have it. And then they're serving 3 months to a year. And it's really, really sad. And I think we need to find a way to really decongest and also be humane. Because it's really some of the people that are serving sentences here are really suffering.
Even though the government is implementing measures to reduce prison overcrowding, the facilities still house approximately 62,000 inmates, far exceeding their capacity of 30,000.
To the corridors of justice now, the government has received the nod to implement the issuance of the Maisha Card third generation number. This is after the High Court Monday set aside conservatory orders issued on the 25th of July to halt the process. Elsewhere, Directorate of Criminal Investigation has been granted 7 days to hold 2 suspects arrested allegedly with explosives at the gate of a businessman Jimmy Wanjigi's home in Muthaiga.
It is a win for the government after the courts okayed it to continue rolling out the Maisha Card number. Justice Lawrence Mugambi said there was a clear demonstration that the suspension of the registration of Kenyans has a direct adverse effect on the population. Further, the court stated the petitioner's allegation of a violation of their rights was subject to proof. The application had been filed by Haki na Sheria Initiative. Elsewhere, 2 employees of businessman Jimmy Wanjigi will be guests of the state for the next 7 days. This is after the court was informed that there was sufficient reasons to detain the 2 Duncan Othiambo and Calvin Ocheng pending investigations.
I, however, find that the period which was requested, which was 14 days, to be excessive for verification of the identity of the respondents and for the forensic examination of the relevant items which are already in possession of the investigators. The court will therefore allow the application for remand of the respondents for a period of 7 working days.
However, through their lawyer Willis Otieno, the court was urged to review its decision, saying that the state had no reasons to detain them since the state already recovered the explosives near Wanjigi's residence in Muthaiga.
So the state, having taken that position, the highest police officer in the country, the IG, has publicly communicated and recovered this from Jimmy Wanjigi's residence. This gentleman should now be released and let Jimmy Wanjigi and the state deal. And he's ready to deal.
Ruth Wambui for Good Morning Kenya.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has raised concerns over the increasing number of fraudsters posing as detectives of the commission to con unsuspecting Kenyans. EACC spokesperson Eric Gumbi, who was in Kwale County, said the fraudsters are fond of purporting to be conducting investigations, urging Kenyans to verify the identity of the individuals and refrain from the culture of bribery. Gumbi says the commission has encountered over 300 cases where individuals pretend to be officers of the EACC in this year alone. They have mainly targeted state officers, county officials, school principals, and national government administration officers, as well as private business operators. The con artists have perfected their trade in Kakamega, Bungoma, and Busia counties.
The Commission is surprised at the very high level of readiness with which most Kenyans are willing to bribe their way out of perceived trouble. This is manifest in the cases of imposters that have been reported so far, where many people report after they have already been conned by these imposters. So let us embrace the culture of seeking to verify the authenticity of any alleged detective who seeks to engage a public officer or any other member of the public on a matter of investigation. EACC does not do some of the things that have been done by these imposters, such as summoning suspects to hotels and other places that are not official. EACC.
Now that particular question, that particular story begs the question, then how can members of the public actually identify a fraudster from an officer working under EACC? And secondly, if these particular impersonators have perfected their trade in Kakamega, Bungoma and Busia counties, why so? Maybe that's just a rhetoric or something that we can follow up on. Taking us to business, Kenya is among 9 Eastern African countries set to import grains worth 52 billion shillings from neighboring countries to offset domestic deficits. East African Grain Council Executive Director Gerald Masila says maize, beans, soybeans, wheat, rice are key grains to be traded.
Adverse weather conditions witnessed this year caused havoc on farmlands in eastern and southern African countries such as Kenya, Zambia, Malawi, Burundi, Mozambique, Somalia, Southern Sudan, and Rwanda. This is projected to have a negative impact on food harvest this year and adversely affect their ability to feed their population. The East Africa Grain Council projects that affected countries are likely to import their food deficits from neighboring countries.
As part of this workshop, we would like to resolve some of these outstanding issues that are preventing trade between these countries. And then we also hope to facilitate business-to-business deals so that the private sector takes an active role in addressing this impending food security situation.
Masila says so far countries within the region have signed trade deals worth 52 billion shillings for 748,854 metric tons of grains such as maize, beans, wheat, rice and soybeans.
We have signed agreements of 106,000 metric tons valued at $88 million if we make to get those beans to move across the borders. If we make them move across the borders. Rice, 20,000 metric tons valued at 24 million shillings. Wheat, 800 tons valued at $364,000 quite significant. In total volume, just under 500,000 tons.
Delegates at the 2-day public-private dialogue and business-to-business forum held in Dar es Salaam called for elimination of non-tariff barriers as well as harmonization of trade policies to promote seamless grain trade across borders.
Isolo County is finalizing operationalization of the Isolo Export Abattoir, which has a capacity to handle 10,000 goats, 500 cows and 300 camels per day. Speaking during that particular symposium in Isolo, Marsabit and Samburu Investment Conference, Isolo Governor Abdi Ibrahim underscored the need to increase investments in the livestock value chain, which is the backbone of the economy of that particular region.
Construction of the Isolo Export Abattoir, which kicked off 16 years ago, is now in the final stages of completion.
Additionally, cargo flights for fresh meats and other value-added products from our modern abattoir, which will soon be inaugurated by the President in the next few days, it is at 98% now.
The abattoir is expected to create over 300 jobs and provide a lucrative export market for the livestock products, as Isolo Governor Abdi Ibrahim explains.
In this era of climate change, it is crucial we build dependable livestock production systems that allow smallholders, livestock farmers to maximize the benefit from the animals.
We are leveraging our collective expertise to support entrepreneurs to find their solutions to these challenges while increasing incomes for northern Kenya.
He says there is a growing demand for fresh and processed camel milk products, both domestically and internationally, urging investors to establish a camel milk processing factory.
This move will not only provide a ready market for our farmers, but also create much needed job for our youth.
Samburu County is in the process of leasing Nomotio Abattoir that will serve at least 4 livestock markets. They were speaking at the Isolo, Marsabit and Samburu Investment Conference that highlighted business opportunities in animal feed, breeding techniques, tourism, renewable energy, fishing and mining.
We take a quick breather here on In the Headlines. We'll be back with more, including what is happening in the sporting arena.
Julia, bisa hivyo eh? Ni sawa tu dada.
Bisha nini? If you like, take me to high court, sue me, or take me to court of appeal.
Well, until everything comes back to normal, we just have to make do.
Teacher, that is unacceptable. This is not what we signed up for. This environment is worse than approved school.
You mean you're still bruised over that mad incident? Grow up.
Well, did you have a mad fight?
I wish I could do that.
If you ask any man if he has gossiped before, he will answer with a loud vehement no.
Yes.
But of course we know that is not true. Men gossip.
Siku zinasonga sambamba na matukio yanavyojiri.
Kuyajua hayo mbali na hamasa zilizopo kwengineko, shirika la utangazaji KBC limejitolea kuhakikisha ubora wa matangazo yasiyo na chuku.
Darubini huangazia mengi ya kusini na kaskazini, mashariki na magharibi na kukuwasilishia kwa njia stahiki.
Ufasaha, usawa, uketo, pasipo kuegemea upande wowote.
Iwapo hutakishaka kwa unachoarifiwa, Darubini itakidhi mahitaji yako. Jina langu ni Nancy Onyancha.
Na mimi ni Harith Salim.
Jina langu ni Gladys Mungai.
Mimi ni Ahmed Jumabalo.
Nami ni Sarafina Robi.
KBC, angazo la Wakenya.
Welcome back. You're tuned to In the Headlines on Good Morning Kenya. I'm Regina Manyara. Now, Kenyans have been urged to embrace electric vehicles in a bid to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the transport sector. U.S. Ambassador Meg Whitman reaffirmed the commitment of the United States in supporting Kenya's transition to e-mobility, a key step towards decarbonizing the country's transport sector.
Asset Financial, Mogo is one of the 3 e-mobility firms that received 3.9 billion shillings in financing from the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. Mogo has invested 1.3 billion shillings of this funding into expanding its EV financing portfolio, supporting Kenya Green Mobility initiatives by providing essential zero-emission vehicle financing to individuals and businesses in the transportation sector.
Development Finance Corp that Teddy and Viv work for is the financing arm of the United States government. And so they have financed Mogo and Ampersand and Rome, right? Mm-hmm. And so we work very closely with them to identify opportunities in Kenya for investment. And obviously this is one. And so I'm actually right now in the process of seeing the most recent 5 investments by DFC, of which Mogo is one. So we're super excited about this. I think this is a big opportunity for Kenya and frankly for the boda drivers.
U.S. Ambassador Meg Whitman says investing in the e-mobility sector will create high-quality jobs for Kenyans in an overall strategy to reduce dependence on fossil fuels and modernizing the country's extensive transport system, especially in urban areas.
Over the years, over the last 5 years, in the country, we're happy that we have more than 120,000 customers that we financed either border or a car or gave a loan, a logbook loan to some customers. Talking about the future, we see great opportunities in the country. In EV space, electric borders alone, we expect to finance more than 10,000 borders, electric borders, over the next 2 years. So we see that the market is growing.
The United Nations Environment Programme estimates that a global transition to electric motorcycles could prevent 11 billion tons of carbon dioxide emissions by 2050, saving motorcycle owners a combined 5 trillion shillings due to lower fuel and maintenance costs.
Hope that more players will come in to compete. In terms of, I think it's good for everyone. And we have certain advantages. We've been in this market for many years. We know the border space. We have a wide network. We opened our first showroom in Nairobi.
Equity Group made 28.5 billion shillings in net profits during the first 6 months of this year, representing an 11.8% growth, which is driven by higher interest income. The lender increased its loan loss provision by 48.3% to 10.5 billion after the gross non-performing loans rose to 119.9 billion shillings. Net interest income grew by 22% to 84.8 billion shillings from 69.8 billion shillings reported over the same period last year. This comprised 53.5 billion shillings in interest income on loans and advances and 28.3 billion shillings in interest income from investment in government securities.
Banks are at 8, we're at 7. Despite having a lower cost of funds, at net interest margin, we're still doing poorly because of our decision, a differentiating decision that you start with your customer. You give them an umbrella when there is rain, not when there is no rain.
The gross non-performing loans increased from 97.5 billion shillings to 119.9 billion shillings, and this prompted the lender to increase the loan provisioning by 48.3% to 10.5 billion shillings.
Real estate, manufacturing, building and construction, transport and communications. So it's rather broad-based.
Q1 interest rates were at 11.4%. We then deliberately, as the pressures on interest rate came through, we ensured that we lag that behind so that we get to support the customer to where the loan average loan interest now is at 13%.
This is in addition to a 12.5% increase in staff costs to 16 billion shillings to drive up the total operating expenses by 25.7% to 60 billion shillings. Just like was the case last year, the listed firm has not declared any interim dividend.
It's at the ratio level that you then see how well positioned the bank is. Coverage, as we've said, above 70%. Cost of risk because of provisions. And then capital adequacy, almost 500 basis points.
Plans are underway to build the capacity of micro, small and medium enterprises on construction strengths and technical capacities to equip them to tap opportunities in the construction space. Now, Public Works Director Oliver Okello says training will mainly target those who are already in the industry. Here are the details.
The Center has actually gotten approval from Treasury, and it is going to be executed as a public-private partnership. So there's a committee which is handling that, and they'll develop this center to be constructed at Konza.
Part of the items to be discussed in the conference in Mombasa will be sensitization, awareness and training on the recently launched National Building Code 2024, which is currently on its transition phase. It was launched on 17th of July here in Nairobi.
And you see, construction now has moved to the next level. We are beyond just the tech computer. Now we are also dealing with tech in terms of AI, in terms of artificial intelligence. And this starts from the point of contracting, also the use of robotics. We have robotics in the construction industry now.
Now to usher matters sports, just to draw your attention to one of the headlines in one of the dailies this morning that Victor is going to be perusing through this morning. And that's the scandal of Kenya's athletics talent drain. Just to read the kicker there. Exodus insiders at Athletics Kenya could be aiding the transfer of young, talented athletes from Kenya to other countries for personal benefit with the lure of better pay. That's just the kicker on that particular daily. Remember, right after this, we're going to be having just a sneak peek on what has been carrying the day in the last 12 hours and what you're likely to wake up to as news. This comes as the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, that is NOC President Paul Tergat, has called for the embrace of emerging sports, reiterating that the committee's commitment to support the new sports. In the just concluded 2024 Olympic Games, 4 sports made their debut, including breaking, that is breakdance if you like, that has history in New York, skateboarding, surfing and sports climbing. Maybe it's a high time that we focused on that. Let's have a sneak peek onto what has been making headlines in the sporting arena locally. Is that 23 professionals and amateur tennis coaches from 6 Eastern African countries are part of a free tennis coach clinic at Sedili Oval, led by celebrated tennis coach and former Scottish international Dr. Judy Murray, who is the mother of tennis ace Sir Andy Murray. Now, some of the topics covered during the free clinic included teaching tennis in small spaces using different pieces of equipment and high-performance player development.
More than 20 tennis coaches from East Africa attended a clinic by former Scottish international Dr. Judy Murray, who is best known as parent and coach to 2 world tennis stars, Jamie Murray and Sir Andy Murray. 12 Kenyan coaches and 11 from Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda, Congo and Tanzania participated in the training. Some of the topics covered during the free clinics included high-performance mentoring of teenagers and also skills in delivering tennis for large numbers. In addition to the free tennis clinics, the event also included engagements with parents on possible sports scholarships and college placements in the United States. Meanwhile, Benin were crowned the champions in the 3rd edition of the Africa Chukball Championship after beating Cameroon 60-35 in the final held at the